Ilia Topuria, do you have a message for him? He really wants to fight you next year.
No, man. I'm tired to give chance the small guys. No.
Islam Makhachev versus Ilia Topuria is one of the biggest matchups, if not the biggest matchup that the UFC could put on right now. It will go down as the greatest fight of all time when you factor in their respective achievements and accolades. Both of them have a combined 45 wins amongst their record, with the only loss coming from Islam's record back in 2015. Both of them are two division champions respectively. Islam held the lightweight title and is currently holding the welterweight title, while Ilia held the featherweight title and is currently holding the lightweight title. A lot of back and forth trash talk has already occurred between these two, with their managers also chiming in on the party. To kick things off, let's talk about Islam Makhachev going into the fight. From a physical standpoint, he is 5'10", which is 3 inches more than Ilia, and he has a 70-inch reach, which is 1 more than Ilia. He's a sambo specialist and is widely regarded as one of the best wrestlers and grapplers in UFC history. Prior to his title reign, his dominance over guys like Drew Dober, Bobby Green, and Dan Hooker showed exactly what kind of fighter Islam was going to be, and that it was inevitable that he would be fighting for a title. But people were not sure if he would be eventually succeeding in capturing it. But on October 22, 2022, UFC 280 was booked in Abu Dhabi, headlined by Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev for the vacant lightweight title, albeit Charles never really lost the belt legitimately up to that point, and a controversy surrounding his weight miss in his last fight led to him being stripped off his championship belt. Charles was riding an 11-fight win streak. Most thought he was unstoppable, and that he would soon to become the greatest 155er of all time. Islam Makhachev, lacking experience at the top level, made people realize that this would not be an easy night for him as it was in his previous fights. But they were wrong. Islam Makhachev ended up knocking down Charles, jumped into his guard, and submitted him in round 2. Islam was crowned the new lightweight champion and eventually defended it 4 times, most notably against the former #1 pound-for-pound featherweight champion, Alexander Volkanovski. He handed him not only his first loss, but also his first KO loss in the rematch. He went on to submit Dustin Poirier and Renato Moicano before he signed out from the division and moved up to face Jack Della Maddalena at 170, and ultimately beating him in a wide 50-45 unanimous decision. Islam's versatility and well-roundedness combined with his freak and unmatched strength makes him one of the most unbeatable champions in history. He has shown that he could strike with the best and not get outstruck. He has shown that he could grapple with the best and not get outgrappled, and instead come out on top in both instances. His comfortability on the feet complements his shot selection, where he could box and kick fluidly without feeling or looking awkward or stiff. On the other hand, Ilia Topuria is one of the greatest fighters of all time. He is the legend killer, an anomaly in this game, the only undefeated double champion in the history of the business. He started off his career fighting Yusuf Zalal on short notice, where he won that fight by decision, and that win has aged nicely ever since. Before his title reign, judging by his performances against Ryan Hall, Bryce Mitchell, and Josh Emmett, people knew that this guy was going to be a problem for everyone at 145. He secured his first title shot on February 17, 2024, against Alexander Volkanovski. He won the fight by second-round KO and handed Volkanovski his first ever loss in the division. He went on to defend the belt against one of the best featherweights of all time in Max Holloway, handing him his only KO loss in his entire career and cracking one of the most durable chins in UFC history, before moving up to 155 to fight for the vacant belt against former champion Charles Oliveira, where he also suffered the same fate. Ilia is renowned for his sharp, powerful, technical, and accurate boxing prowess. Not only that, but he has a background in Greco-Roman wrestling and has shown decent enough skills on the ground. Most prominently, he submitted Bryce Mitchell, who was an undefeated jiu-jitsu practitioner at the time, and managed to pull a crucifix on Charles Oliveira and completely nullified his strengths. Ilia is one of a kind. It is inevitable that if you stand with him, you will either get knocked out or beaten from pillar to post. If we assume that the fight will be at 155, Islam Makhachev has more experience, has fought not only Charles Oliveira himself, but also more opponents and elite ones too. However, one of Islam's glaring holes is that he tends to get hit often on the feet. Against Dustin Poirier, who was noticeably over the hill, Islam went to war with him and ended with his face bloodied up. Similarly with Alexander Volkanovski, who was a featherweight moving up to 155 for the first time. Islam got momentarily clipped and dropped in that fight against someone who isn't known for his power necessarily. Ilia Topuria is a massive puncher, and a calibrated one to be exact. He will not miss your chin, and he certainly would not miss the opportunity to finish you off if he has you hurt. However, the wrestling aspect of the game is going to be the equalizer. Islam is far more credible, tested, and proven on the ground, both offensively and defensively. Ilia Topuria is still one of the better grapplers and wrestlers in the division, and he is certainly not a slouch on the ground. If we assume that the fight will be at 170, however, Islam has shown tremendous progression in terms of his pure brute strength and dominance on the ground, by completely controlling Jack Della Maddalena for over 5 rounds and having his way with him. Islam has later on expressed on how different he feels in this new weight class. With the lack of weight cutting and water draining, he now looks even more dominant than he did at 155. Ilia, on the other hand, has not fought at 170 yet. Some could assume that he would look overweight, slow, and rigid when he moves up, and some would assume that he would fit right into the new weight class, but suffer some disadvantages involving his height. This fight is going to feed generations, a clash of titans between the two of the best of not only this generation, but in the history of the sport. This is the kind of fight that the fans are clamoring for, a once-in-a-lifetime matchup that, as a fan, casual or hardcore, you just have to be there.